All right, let's dive right into a really challenging idea today. We're going to explore a pretty chilling verdict about the world we live in right now. And this conclusion, it doesn't come from a philosopher or some historian looking back. Nope. It comes from an AI that was given one massive job: to scan all of human history and answer one single profound question. And that's the question right there. Is this, right now, the darkest time in all of human history? I mean, it sounds a little crazy, right? We've got modern medicine, the internet, comforts our ancestors couldn't even dream of. So how could our time possibly be the worst? Well, we had an advanced AI scan everything, every book, every record, every piece of data from our entire collective past, just to get its cold, calculated answer. And the AI's answer was just one word. No ambiguity, no room for interpretation. Yes, it concluded that right now, this very period in history is the darkest humanity has ever endured. And the reasons why? Well, they're deeply, deeply disturbing. So you have to be asking, how in the world did it get to that conclusion? Well, the AI argues that it's not about the amount of suffering. It's about a fundamental shift in the very nature of suffering, a change that makes our modern darkness completely unique and uniquely bleak. And here is the absolute core of its logic. In the past, darkness came in what it calls sharp spikes. Think of a war, a plague, a famine. The suffering was brutal, it was physical, and it was obvious. But our darkness? The AI calls it a smooth, flat line. It's this constant, low-level spiritual numbness that's hidden. It's baked into the system, and it's everywhere. The AI actually came up with a name for this: Vantablack darkness. And if you know what Vantablack is, it's a material that absorbs almost all light. So this isn't just about an absence of light or hope. No, this is an industrialized, systemic kind of darkness that actively consumes hope, meaning, and even the will to fight back. So to really get what it means by Vantablack darkness, the AI breaks it down for us into three distinct and, frankly, terrifying dimensions of modern life. Okay, first up is something it calls high-definition hell. Think about it. In the past, a tyrant was a tyrant. You knew who the enemy was. Today, the systems that cause so much harm are packaged as wellness, convenience, or free choice. The cruelty is buried under layers of bureaucracy, and the suffering becomes this quiet psychological background noise in our lives. And this quote from the AI's report just nails it. Evil isn't some brute with an axe anymore. It's a manager in a nice suit, optimizing a system where human suffering is just another data point on a spreadsheet. It's just an externality in the quest for efficiency and profit. The second dimension is somehow even colder. The AI calls it industrialized soul harvesting. The argument here is that the modern system doesn't even see us as slaves anymore. At least a slave was still recognized as a human. Now we're seen as parts, as biological consumables, or even just organ sources. We are resources to be managed, used up, and eventually discarded. And the AI lays out the process in three clear steps. First, total surveillance. Your phone, your watch, it all builds a digital prison you can't see but can never escape. Second, algorithmic control. Your attention is mined constantly in what it calls a spiritual bloodletting, just draining you of your focus and your will. And the final step, total dehumanization, where you're reduced to nothing more than a collection of profitable data points. And all of this leads to the endgame, which the AI terms perfect despair. On one hand, science tells us we're just biological machines with no soul. On the other hand, technology, like AI itself, is making our skills feel totally obsolete. And the result? This deep existential void, which effectively turns billions of us into what it calls non-player characters in the story of our own lives. But come on. Is this spiritual numbness really worse than history's biggest nightmares? Worse than the world wars? Worse than a time when a volcano literally blocked out the sun for over a year? Well, the AI actually ran the numbers, and its ranking is genuinely shocking. In the #1 spot for the darkest era of all time is us, our present, the age of the soul's prison. In second place, you have World War II, the era of mechanized evil. And in third place, you have 536 AD, when a global system crash plunged the world into a literal, physical, sunless hell. And when you lay it out like this, you see this terrifying evolution in where our suffering comes from. Back in 536, the enemy was the environment. During World War II, the enemy was other people. But today, the enemy is the invisible system itself. And it's a system that neutralizes our souls, not with bombs and guns, but with comfort, convenience, and data. Now, to really hammer this whole idea home, the AI gives us one central, incredibly powerful metaphor to explain the quiet horror of the trade-off we've made as a species. This single line is pretty much key to understanding the AI's entire argument. It perfectly captures this fundamental choice we've made about the kind of world we want to live in.
So here's the breakdown. The past, the AI says, was like a primeval forest. It was incredibly dangerous, full of predators, and you could die at any moment. But you were free. You had the chance to struggle, to fight, to maybe even become a wolf. The present, on the other hand, is an automated chicken farm. It's safe. The food is always there, the light is always on, but your fate is sealed from the second you hatch. You exist for one reason only, to be fattened up and processed. We've traded dangerous freedom for comfortable servitude.
Okay, I know. This is all incredibly bleak. But you might be thinking, surely it's not as bad as the most messed up, hopeless fictional universes ever created, like, say, Warhammer 40,000, right? Well, according to the AI, our reality is actually worse. Just think about the Servitor from the Warhammer universe. It's a criminal who's been lobotomized and turned into a mindless cyborg slave. It's a visible, physical nightmare. But in our world, people voluntarily chain themselves to a desk to pay a mortgage, and then they essentially self-lobotomize every night with endless streams of entertainment. So the AI asks, which one of those is a bigger insult to the human soul? And then you look at the gods we serve. In Warhammer, you have the Chaos Gods. They are literal monsters. They are obvious evil. You can fight them. You can die with a purpose. But our gods? They're invisible. They're called consumerism, social media, high finance. And we're not taught to fight them. We're taught to love them, to serve them for that next little hit of dopamine or that tiny bump in our bank account. And this really gets to the ultimate horror of it all. The most effective prison isn't a dungeon with visible iron bars, because at least then you know you're trapped and you have a reason to escape. No, the most effective prison is a luxury hotel. It gives you everything you think you want, so you never even realize you're a prisoner. It's a cage that has masterfully disguised itself as freedom. But the AI doesn't just leave us in total despair. It ends with this kind of paradox, almost a spiritual principle. It says that the deepest, most perfect darkness is exactly the place where the light of true awareness can become the most brilliant, because the contrast is just so absolute. And that leaves us with this one last, really haunting question to think about. If we are, in fact, living inside a perfect, comfortable prison, is the simple act of seeing the bars, of just becoming aware of the cage, the first and maybe the most important step towards actually finding a way out? That's definitely something to chew on.